Hey everybody, it is Kellen Nitro for Nitromaniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited, and the epicenter of wrestling for this past weekend was the Dallas-Fort Worth area as two huge events rolled through town. I got a chance to watch the second of the two huge events. It was iMPACT Wrestling's Slammiversary, the 2019 edition, emanating from Gillies in Dallas, Texas on July 7th, 2019. And here are my thoughts and my opinions on what I thought actually was a really decent card coming out of the iMPACT Anthem organization and the former TNA, now iMPACT Wrestling. To open things up first, a four-way kind of X Division style with four athletes that are huge gets for iMPACT Wrestling and a large part of their future going forward. Where you got Jake Christ of OVE taking on Willie Mack, taking on TJP, taking on Trey Miguel. Of course, I thought that this was a great mix because you had in that situation. This is a cool mix of guys that iMPACT has had over the past year or two under contract, and guys who are brand new to iMPACT. You had Jake Christ and Willie Mack, who have really been part of major storylines in iMPACT going from about midway through 2018 last year and that stuff on to now to guys that are just brand new to iMPACT, the Trey Miguels of the Rascals and such, and of course TJP, the former WWE Cruiserweight champion, former 205 Live star, that has now come into iMPACT Wrestling and by all accounts has had a bit of a career resurgence, if you will, and he can wrestle that style. TJ is a guy that can definitely roll out there and wrestle that X Division style that they're looking for. I think that he might, if he sticks with iMPACT long enough, and if the water and the temperature of the water is right, I think that there are definitely two or three guys in this match that will be X Division champions and get runs with the X Division belt going into 2020 and maybe even the Slammiversary of next year, 2020. TJP, definitely they're going to probably throw the belt on him. Trey Miguel's another type that's kind of got that standout potential. And, toss-up. I'm going to say Willie Mack just because I think Jake Christ and Dave Christ are probably due for a run with the tag titles here sometime soon. But this was not necessarily a car crash style opener. It was more like an NXT style four-way, something that you'd see on NXT or on a takeover. Very impressive. Love the pacing with it. Willie Mack got the pin on Jay Christ with a 6-star frog splash after Christ hit a top rope cutter on Trey Miguel. The time on this match was a even 10 minutes, so they hit the mark immediately, bell to bell, 10 minutes, in and out. A great opener. I don't think you can ask for anything more from your opener there. That was sensational. Second match, the North, the surprise iMPACT Wrestling Tag Team Champions from that previous Friday, Ethan Page and Josh Alexander, taking on the Latin American Exchange of Ortiz and Santana, and the Rascals, Desmond Xavier and Zachary Wentz. It says listed here with Trey Miguel on Wikipedia, but I did not see Trey at ringside during this match just because he had wrestled the match before. But Conan did walk out with Ortiz and Santana, and he would play a role. Unfortunately, I don't think it was drawn up in the cards. I don't think the role Conan would play was drawn up backstage. We'll just put it that way during this match. But I loved how hard-hitting this one was. It was a great pace. These three teams execute double-team moves like no one's business. iMPACT, I have written down here, iMPACT might have the deepest tag team roster of anyone right now. And I'll go with that. I think their tag team roster might even be deeper than AEW's is shaping up to be. Just because you have these teams like OVE, like the Rascals, LAX, the North, and that's just the teams that made the pay-per-view. They have access to all these teams coming out of either Border City or, across the world of independent wrestling right now. iMPACT right now, I think, is in the 5 slot for number one or for top 5 promotions, I guess, in North America, I would say. But the gap between 5 and 4, between them and Ring of Honor, I think, is narrowing. It's just a matter of them doing better. I think they just have to shake that stigma from, the earlier part of this decade, and wrestling matches like this and the opener will do that. Now, I missed this just because I was watching, different parts of the match on the pay-per-view feed and that stuff, but Santana got hurt sometime during this match with his knee and was hanging out on the outside. I think this really shortened the match a bit because the runtime on the match is 7:20. I think they probably had booked another 10 minutes for this match, but they had to shorten it up. The North retained the titles by grabbing a pin on Ortiz. He was pretty much out of commission after Santana's injury earlier in the match, just kind of laid out on the apron and that stuff. It had become a battle between the North and the Rascals at that point. Lots of high flying and ground attack. Real cool junior heavyweight style stuff. Ethan Page is going to be a star. Just almost that MJF style heel, and I know that he's been at it longer than MJF, so MJF might be that Ethan Page style heel. But yeah, he could be. I could see him doing similar things like MJF is doing over in AEW. And yeah, this seems like the match got caught short because of the injury. That's a bummer. These guys were cooking big time. Killer Kross versus Eddie Edwards in a First Blood match was up next, and that match, the runtime on that one was 11 minutes and 30 seconds. This was corny. I haven't been following Impact a lot on their weekly television or their streams on Twitch or anything like that going into this match, but it was the main event that hooked me for this pay-per-view that I had to see. And we'll discuss that later on in the video, but just so many rules here. So this is all due to Edwards going nuts and broken kendo stick. Kross comes out dressed like a member of Ghost or a Seven cosplayer, I guess, with the priest outfit and such. That just really corny imagery here that I just did not get. This was over my head. So if you dug it, good for you. Excellent. I'm happy for you. Is Eddie Edwards Impact's version of Tommy Dreamer in ECW? Both of these guys are kind of lifelong company guys. I'm sure the comparison has been drawn on their broadcasts before and that stuff, but it was really evident to me here. Edwards, kind of that athlete that would seem unremarkable elsewhere, but he comes to Impact and he's a megastar, and he's the heart and soul guy of the company. The same with a Tommy Dreamer, a guy that probably wouldn't fly and actually didn't fly anywhere else, but in ECW he can do no wrong and never did any wrong. So just a comparison I saw there. There was a brutal Razor's Edge type maneuver on Edwards on the apron earlier on, where Edwards was selling it with the kind of the spinal whiplash type effect with trying to wiggle his fingers and that stuff and everything. Kross is an awesome power heel. Other than the gimmick that he was wearing and that stuff throughout the match, I'm always impressed with Killer Kross. I think he's a perfect mid-card heel for that company right now, with the potential to be a upper-card heel. Just put him in the right situation and storyline, I think, and we will see that. I'm pretty sure we will see that over the next year or so. If he sticks with it. A lot of people are abandoning Impact just due to business practices or a change of philosophy or whatever. I wouldn't mind seeing Kross in AEW, that's for sure. And that's just my take on it. I think he wouldn't lose any momentum at all if he jumped to AEW, but we'll see. Yeah, Kross was ragdolling Edwards all throughout this match until Eddie turned the tide with a chair shot to the face. And the finish was Eddie breaks Kenny to kendo stick, his buddy, it's like Moppy, and shoves it into Kross's head to bust him open. A brutal match, but it was a way to get Eddie's psycho persona over the killer, the lunatic, Killer Kross. So maybe that feud is over. Definitely a real hardcore rules type match, more ECW style hardcore stuff. So up next was my pick for worst match of the night. It might actually go down, in my opinion, as one of the worst matches of the year, just because on a major pay-per-view it was so freaking boring. Put your dislikes below if you disagree. But RVD versus Moose, the promo that RVD cut with Melissa Santos before the match was nothing to write home about. It was fairly terrible. I dig Moose's heel music. He's got this brand new heel remix track of his theme from the past couple of years. The robe, the whole deal. He looks like an elite athlete, with the swagger and that's almost like an elite NBA or NFL athlete, right? So that's a great fit for him. Just this athlete that's too cool for school. You know what I mean. Just got that professional athlete swagger about him, which is just that's natural heat and natural. Just love it. That's awesome. RVD's TNA / Impact music, still bad. Yes, it's the time for the Spoony one. Dun, 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 dun. Wrestling show type thing. The fans of the Spoony experiment from back in the day would recognize that reference. But, RVD, dun, 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 the whole effing show. And it's just like, just, can we get new music for the dude, please? How much would a generic version of Walk by Pantera just help him right now? I know there's licensing and everything like that, but man. Ugh. Van Dam though looked really crisp in the ring, still very sharp of his moves and that stuff. He wasn't slow by any means of working with Moose. The problem is the match itself seemed really clunky because you have an ultra heel super heavyweight taking on a aging face legendary athlete. That the styles in this match was like butting heads and bouncing off each other. They weren't butting heads and locking like you'd like to see as we've seen in the previous matches and that stuff. So I thought that this match actually was the most boring match in the show. I almost fell asleep a couple of times during it. Just the pace was way too slow. Moose wins with a spear, but so it accomplished what it needed to accomplish. Moose established himself even more as this heel character on the roster in this match, and Rob Van Dam came back for a pay-per-view pop. The runtime on this one, if you're wondering, was 13 minutes and 50 seconds. I probably, if I were to watch this pay-per-view again, would skip over that match. Just not my cup of tea. That's it. If it was yours, awesome. But just not mine. However, man, things picked up big time in a hurry right after the Monsters Ball, for the first time in either a long time or ever, with 4 knockout athletes in it, or 4 female athletes in it. We had Jessica Havoc, Su Yung, Rosemary, and Taya Valkyrie. One of these things is not like the other. Taya, her character, kind of with this booking, kind of sticks out a little bit like a sore thumb, but this was great booking from front to back. James Mitchell coming out and introducing us to the Monsters Ball. Dude still has it. Dude is on fire. Go back in the channel's history and see our piece that myself and Morehouse did up on him in around the Meltzers earlier this year. Dude is one of my favorite non-wrestling personalities going today. And he still can do it, which is amazing. The guy is turning back the clock. He's one of these wrestling renaissance type characters, like a PCO or such, that comes back into the fold and will just kind of have a resurgence of popularity. It's insane in 2019 that we're getting so many athletes doing that, but Father James Mitchell is one of them. He's as over as ever. Great booking. It was impossible to pick a winner out of these 4. I had no idea what direction they were going to go with the Impact Knockouts title off of this. So, that's always a plus when you're watching it. I think it was a logical choice to pick any of the 4 girls in this match. That's how wild I thought that this was going to be. There was a stapler spot. It was quite cringeworthy between Taya and Su Yung. This was a car wreck, a unique match, but the girls did a great job. And if anything, Taya showed that she can get hardcore in the ring and wrestle that hardcore style. I know she did it in Mexico for so many years, to kind of be showcased in that way on a North American pay-per-view and a major North American pay-per-view like Slammiversary, which is one of the big 2 pay-per-views that Impact puts out each year. That and Bound for Glory. That's a big deal for sure, and that was awesome to see. Face first stomp into the tax that Rosemary got was another cringeworthy type spot. These girls left it all out there, which is, an amazing accomplishment for all four of them. It was great. The alliance between Su Yung and Havoc is pretty much out the window coming out of this match. We saw the fraction of it during this match. The finish was Havoc super tombstone Su Yung onto the thumbtacks, but is broken up by Taya and a chair, who sneaks in as Havoc rolls off. Taya rolls on top of Sue for the 1-2-3 and retains the Knockouts title. The runtime on the Monsters Ball is a 11:45. Really, it's hard to say this with a hardcore match, but it was a nice, tight 11:45. I thought the segment moved beautifully, told a great story in the ring, and now Taya is the undisputed leader amongst this group of knockouts going forward. And I don't know if she was kind of a tweener going into this match, but I think coming out of it, she might be more of a face, just due to the fact that she stood up to three of the biggest monsters in TNA's women's division, in the knockouts division, and walked out with there we go, TNA again. I'm doing it again. Sorry. Impact women's division, and walked out with the belt. That's awesome. That is that's a way to turn someone face, but we'll have to wait and see on Impact this week what comes out of this one. But this was a really fun match to watch. It was great. One of the best they've done, in my opinion. It was one of my favorite Monsters Ball style matches that I've seen. So, probably my favorite since DK versus the Hardys back at Bound for Glory 2016 it was, I believe, when they had that encounter. So cool. Was a lot of fun. X Division title up next, where we had Johnny Impact accompanied to the ring by Johnny Bravo take on the X Division champion Rich Swann. This is the first time I've seen Johnny Bravo with Impact. I had a buddy kind of fill me in online what the whole storyline was before going into this and that stuff, how Bravo was the former lead official in Impact Wrestling, and the whole deal with helping Johnny secure the X and the Ultimate X and whatever, and then blah blah blah. So he got the X Division title shot. Classic old school manager client heat, great compliment, as we saw that in the pre-match promo that Swann was cutting, and Impact and Bravo crashed it. Just kind of mocking him with the all night long thing, and it was just that's so old school, something that's dearly lacking in today's pro wrestling vernacular. So kudos to those guys for trying to pull it off. I love early on in the match, Bravo reached underneath the ring and threw a bunch of thumbtacks left at ringside from the previous match into the ring. That ended up creating a distraction for Impact, where he was able to low blow Rich Swann and attempt a pinfall, right after and that stuff, which was classic manager style stuff. Bravo's got a future as a manager. I like this pairing. I really do. Both athletes' athleticism kind of complements each other. This is a dark horse match of the night, but believe me, we're just picking up pace here. This was when the card was on its ascendancy, and it never really, after the dip of the RVD Moose match, this card just kind of went way up big time. And these matches were fun to watch. My favorite Rich Swann match from his Impact run so far, just from what I've seen on pay-per-views and that stuff. Like I said, I've kind of stepped out of watching the weekly TV for a while. This was kind of coming right back into it. I really liked this match. Swann retains with the Phoenix Splash. A real sick encounter. Runtime on this one was, this is courtesy of our friends over at Wikipedia, 14:55 for the runtime, and this felt like I could have used 5 more minutes of it. It was great. It was a match you didn't want to see end, so hopefully a rematch is down the line, and I think that we'll see the heel side of Impact and Bravo kind of connive and get that X Division title, away from Swan here in the coming weeks and months. It seems to be trending in that direction. Michael Elgin versus Brian Cage, the Impact title. This was a Haas fight for the Impact title. Great back and forth encounter. Big guys being athletic. Brian Cage did a cheeky Nando's kick. And Don Callis even referenced it on the broadcast. As shades of Will Ospreay, it's like, wow. Cage, every time I see this guy in the ring, just amazes me. From Lucha Underground to Impact to now, like, dude, he's going to be a big get for somebody one of these days. Definitely, he's already a big get for Impact, but man, he's great now. Imagine him in 2 or 3 years, right? So, what a dude! He kicked out of a Canadian Destroyer. The fact that 2 guys that size pulled off a seemingly cruiserweight-esque Canadian Destroyer type maneuver in this match was incredible. Cage retains after reversing the third Elgin bomb attempt during the night, because there was a whole deal where Elgin, since debuting in Impact, was putting opponents down with 3 Elgin bombs, and then that was it. 1, 2, 3, and then gets the pinfall. And so it came to that point where it was, all right, is this going to be lock and load or what's happening? And Elgin, attempted the third one. Cage reversed it, got the free count, and retains the Impact title. Match wasn't done though. Elgin then attacked Cage after the bell, then attacked Don Callis at ringside, and pulled Callis into the ring. And when it looked like that Elgin was going to nail Callis with a Elgin bomb, a masked man then spears Elgin, or should I say gores Elgin. For those who know pro wrestling and pro wrestlers' body types, yes, this was Rhino. And this is a huge grab for Impact, even though it wasn't revealed as Rhino. The dude kind of bailed out of the ring and took off. Guy has history in Impact, of course, winning pretty much his first world championship and having a lengthy run with the NWA title back in 2005 after his stint in WWE ended. Impact TNA was really the promotion that picked him up and kind of reestablished him as an independent wrestling star for a long time after that. He had a good 2 or 3 year run right after that, in definitely over a year and a half, I should say, right after that. So, I mean, this is a company where he has history and is a kind of a legendary figure from that middle part of the 2005s, from the really hot period when Impact / TNA was definitely the number 2 promotion across the board in North America, and was poised to maybe take a run at WWE. And then, of course, we all know what happened after that. But, huge grab, great nod to history. We'll have to see what happens. Then, of course, the match I paid to see for this pay-per-view. Was looking forward to this one for a while since it was announced. The first ever intergender main event on a pay-per-view, one-on-one match between Sami Callihan and Tessa Blanchard. And I know there's going to be haters out there and that stuff, say, well, it's only Impact. This, to me, is a groundbreaking moment, because this, in my memory and that stuff, is the first time that a intergender match has headlined a pay-per-view. Now, I could see people just kind of confusing and that stuff. Well, what about something like Vince and Stephanie from whatever the pay-per-view was in the in the early 2000s, 2003. I think it was No Mercy or something like that. That match, again, wasn't in the main event slot. That match didn't go on last. And, we've seen intergender matches occur on Raw and SmackDown back in the early 2000s that were either close to main event matches or, in that main event slot in the second hour of the show. But this was the first time really on a pay-per-view that we've seen a intergender match where, in my opinion, the combatants were built as being even. Tessa and Sami their careers have kind of paralleled each other in Impact since both debuting. as you know, one has kind of dominated the men's division as a power heel and just this sicko heel, and the other has kind of gained everybody's respect along the way and that stuff, and kind of went from heel to face in short order in the knockouts division. So this was a natural pairing in my opinion. I've looked forward to this, like I said, for a while. I totally forgot that Sawyer Fulton was with OVE, but Fulton kind of exits ringside after giving Sammy a couple pats on the back and that stuff, so he would not be a factor at all during this match. Tessa's got her back up, of course, to make makes a baseball bat look hot on my notes. Yeah, she did. The whole outfit just made her saucy. I loved it. It was great. Tessa nails the repeated dives to the outside, but on the third dive, Sammy nails the DVD on Tessa on the outside. I love that sequence. Callahan and, of course, OVE are over as heels. I think they are the lead heel group now in Impact Wrestling for a reason. Those guys draw heat like nobody's business, and I think that they are definitely one of the things that makes Impact worth watching. You know, Sammy ragdolled Tessa earlier on, but then when the match evens out, you know, about this midway part of the match and that stuff, it's a great smaller athlete versus larger heel story. Can the smaller athlete overtake the heel in this situation? Tessa may have busted her nose off a second rope DDT. In fact, you know, towards the end of the match, you've seen blood kind of trickling out of her nose on the one side there, and so far. And I think the cameras were trying to shy away from it a little bit, but you could tell that she got. Right after that, the eyes started to well up a little bit and that stuff. So yeah, she got corked with one across the nose. So if she didn't bust it, maybe sprain something in there, I have no idea. But you know, she gutted through it. So the final few minutes of this thing is insane. The finish was Callahan gives Tessa the Cactus Special and pins Tessa for the win. Both athletes' stock goes up here big time. Match of the night, I think so. Was the most enjoyable match of the night for sure. This was the most unpredictable match of the night just because of the intergender factor of it. You had no idea where it was going. You know, the runtime of 15 minutes, perfect length. Perfect. I wouldn't have done a single thing different at all, you know, behind the scenes or anything with this match. So it was a lot of fun. Post-match, Callahan grabs both bats and offers one up to Tessa as a sign of respect. I've seen a lot of hate online for this thing in the past 24 hours since it's happened, and I don't know if it's warranted or not, honestly. I thought it told a really good story. Again, if you look over the fact that, okay, one's a male, one's a female in there, it was a classic smaller athlete trying to get the advantage of a larger heel athlete who has been picking on the smaller athlete, you know, over the weeks and months. So, you know, it was just a real, like, the old school wrestling fans will hate it because it's the guy on girl violence and the girl on guy violence in the ring, and to keep wrestling as a quote unquote sport, you have to, you know, have them in the two divisions between men's and women's, and neither shall meet in twain unless it's like a mixed tag or something. But for a one-on-one intergender main event, if this is the first one we've seen main event on a pay-per-view, either in a long time or first time ever, I think it did a more than passable job of doing it. It's easily one of my favorite matches of the year so far, just from the beginning of the year. So, you know, kudos to both individuals for it, and it was a lot of fun watching it. I'm going to give the entire show a 8 out of 10. Go watch it. The only real downside is the RVD Moose match, because that thing will put you to sleep. It almost did for me. And the everything else for the rest of the card on down was a sensational card. So get a chance, watch it. Well worth the pay-per-view price to go check it out. Or, you know, if you watch it through other nefarious means or anything like that, definitely check this show out from front to back. The runtime too, it's a very stomachable 2 hours and 50 minutes. with no pre-show. So there's nothing really to worry about in a pre-show. You're not missing anything because I didn't watch pre-show at all. I actually watched this thing on demand yesterday through my PVR and just recorded it off of the cable pay-per-view. So yeah, it was a fun night in Dallas for sure. And Impact, I think, is back on the upswing again, as they have been the past few summers with Slammiversary. So whether the momentum carries through to Bound for Glory in the fall, stay tuned. We'll talk about that when that happens. All right, folks, I'm Kellen Nitro. Later days, happy wrestling watching, and we'll see you next time on Nitromaniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited. Put your comments below on Slammiversary. See ya.